When did you realize you were the villain in someone else's story? There was this guy Bob. He was a really nice guy. Could have been the lead in your typical teen coming-of-age type movie. A lot of my friends were friends with him, but me and Bob, we were never friends. Because Bob hated me. He didn't hate me at first. It was just a series of unfortunate events. It started in junior high. We both went out for the cross-country team. He was good, but I was better. I mean, I didn't hardly notice the guy. It wasn't like I was out to get him, but I was always just that much faster than him. Back then, it was the top 7 racers from each school that got to compete in the big multi-school races. I was number 7. Bob was number 8. Bob and I were about the same size. This is important because we both also went out for the wrestling team. In each weight class, only 2 people got to compete at the meets. There was another guy who was a good, experienced wrestler. Neither of us had a chance against him that left me and Bob fighting for that second slot. And I was a better wrestler than Bob. It wasn't that I was great or anything. I did okay, won a few more than I lost, but I was just better enough that poor Bob never beat me. It wasn't just sports though, and really, I wasn't very good at sports. I was a big nerd though, and while most people don't want to be nerds, nerds don't mind being big nerds. In my school, I was known as the computer guy. Bob also loved computers. There was a computer club and we tried to write crappy little programs in whatever the basic language was that ran on the Apple computers we had in the labs. None of us really knew anything, but I was always 2 steps ahead of Bob. The thing was, Bob and I were very much alike. That's why I liked him. We had very similar interests, and while I'm not great at anything, I was just always slightly better at him at literally everything we ever objectively competed in. By 8th grade, he'd given me the cold shoulder. He was never mean to me, but he was always distant, and just generally seemed like he didn't like me. I might not ever have put it all together though. I never thought about him and me competing with each other until the 8th grade winter dance. I had a crush on a girl. I was socially awkward, and I awkwardly asked her to the dance. I actually asked her if anyone had asked her yet, and she said, one guy, but she didn't think she wanted to say yes to him. I asked her, and she said yes. Junior high romance, I didn't think much of it. We went to the dance, had a good time, and then dated for like 3 weeks. As it turns out, Bob was her good friend, and Bob had a crush on her. Bob was the one who asked her to the dance, but she saw him as a friend. She told me that Bob basically hated me and complained about me all the time. She didn't really know who I was until Bob started telling her how awful I was. Poor Bob. Once she said it to me, it all made sense. I'd hate being one-upped constantly by some guy who was just like me, only slightly better at stuff. Nobody would like that, and then I swoop in, steal his date, and then I end up dating his crush. I felt bad, but I also didn't know how to tell him I was sorry. Also, I wasn't really sorry for my actions. I didn't do anything wrong, just sorry that my existence seemed to make his life worse. I tried my best to give him space after that, but obviously, easier said than done. Our final interaction came after 8th grade. It was the summer before high school. My older sister was running in some 10K race, and my mom woke me up at 5:30 a.m. and told me I should go. I didn't train, I wasn't ready, I didn't even know it was a 10K. Our CC races in junior high were only 1.5 miles, not 6.2. Still, whatever, I agree. I go to the race and I do pretty darn well. It was the furthest I'd ever run, and my pace really dropped towards the end, but I did it. I finished. I averaged 7:01 per mile and was really proud. At the end, they had a little award ceremony thing and I was shocked to hear my name called. The race had different age groups and I'd taken first place. In fact, there were only 2 people in the under 14 group, me and Bob. I had no idea, but here I was, taking the first place medal from poor Bob. He finished 15 seconds after me. I swear, when he looked at me on that stage, I saw absolute hate in his eyes. I felt awful. Bob and I went to different high schools and thankfully, I haven't run into him since. I stopped running, but I wrestled in high school and I always hoped that him and I would face off again and he'd beat me, and that would be his happy ending.